Welcome back. President Trump signing an executive order yesterday extending the ban on TikTok, the ban deadline, for a fourth time after discussions in Madrid led to a framework deal between the U.S. and China on TikTok. The Wall Street Journal reporting that TikTok's U.S. business would be controlled by an investor consortium, including Oracle, Silver Lake, and Andreessen Horowitz, with U.S. investors holding a roughly 80% stake in the business and Chinese shareholders owning the rest. I spoke with U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer yesterday about this. Watch.
We believe that President Trump has, in fact, resolved this issue, balancing the national security needs of the United States with the economic realities of having TikTok operating in the United States of America. And so the discussions were really focused on that. How do we get to a place where Chinese concerns are addressed and American national security priorities are taken care of? Congress, as you know, put forward a law and passed a law requiring that the national security concerns around TikTok be resolved, and if not, that TikTok goes dark in the United States of America. And of course, the Trump administration and the president himself were perfectly willing to let that happen. There is a deal out there between the private parties who are making the transaction, and it does account for this specific issue on U.S. user data, so it doesn't go back to Beijing.
President Trump set to speak with Xi Jinping this Friday to get a deal done. Joining me now is Heritage Senior Research Fellow of China and National Security Policy, Steve Yates. Steve, good to see you. Thank you so much for being here. Your assessment of this potential deal?
Well, Maria, I think it's important to remember what TikTok is. It has been a weapon of the Chinese Communist Party. It has served Beijing's interest by harvesting our data, manipulating our children, and censoring the truth. I think a true divestment by China would be a massive national security win for the Trump administration. That would require the entire algorithm and all U.S. data to be in a friendly entity's control. And any half measures that left the door open to Beijing, that would present the same concerns and threats, frankly, and would need to be rejected. It sounds like USTR Greer is saying the right things, that if it doesn't meet the requirements of the law, it would be rejected. And frankly, I think the president has the right cards by calling the Chinese bluff to get this deal where it needs to be.
Well, it's too bad, though, that China seems to be holding the cards when it comes to rare earth minerals and the refining of those minerals. It's been incredibly aggressive with the United States. What's your take on how aggressive it's been and what the U.S. should be doing about it?
Well, Maria, this is one that has been sneaking up in plain sight for quite some time.
Yeah.
Frankly, there was, I think, a laziness on the part of the industry allowing this dependency to be out there, not seeming to understand that in a time of crisis or tough negotiations, that leverage could be used against us. The Chinese think they have found a so-called trump card in trying to pressure us. We just really have to go full speed ahead. And frankly, if China wants to use this leverage, it would accelerate the direction that Ambassador Lighthizer and I would prefer, that we strategically couple and work with our friends and allies to awaken the mining and processing of these things among responsible and reliable friends.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, look, there's the supply chain issues, the world relying on China to produce so many important things, including the mining and refining of those rare earth minerals. There's the intellectual property theft, and then there's just plain bullying in international waters. China warned the Philippines against any aggression in the South China Sea after it accused a Philippine ship of deliberately crashing a vessel into the disputed shoal there. The Philippines denying this, and China also sending warnings to the United States and the United Kingdom after Navy ships sailed through the Taiwan Strait. Your thoughts?
Well, Maria, this is sort of a classic case of pot meet kettle. I mean, really, the Chinese vessels are the ones that were trying to crash into a Philippine vessel and accidentally crashed into their own. And it was caught on video. It should have been humiliating for them, but they seem to be full speed ahead. And this sort of puts the lie to the notion that the Taiwan Strait is the only concern that they have, that there's something somewhat different or special about Taiwan. Surely there are some elements of that, but really this aggression is towards anyone that is in near abroad. It's very much aimed at our allies and us.
Can the U.S. stop this? Can the U.S. do anything more to stop this aggression from Communist China?
I think the best thing that we can do is to enhance the independent capabilities of our allies. We should definitely be there. We do freedom of navigation exercises, and we are revitalizing the American military to focus on lethality, our supply chains, modernizing, all the right things, but our independent capabilities of our allies, that complicates things for Beijing. And when they work among themselves, whether it's the Philippines and Japan cooperating, that's somewhat Beijing's nightmare, but it's really a good thing for common sense humanity.
Well, it's one of the reasons the president has been strengthening relationships in the Middle East, strengthening relationships in the Indo-Pacific, to bone up strength for the Western and the free world against the CCP and the other adversaries like Iran and Russia.
Fully agree. I mean, I think there's a very clear strategy and a logic in all these places where we're seeking an alternative path to peace and prosperity by enhancing the independent capabilities of reliable regional allies, where we have a good balance of risk and reward, and that we will be there to be a decisive influence, but we're not the only 911 for the world. And in this model, we can surge where needed. And I think it's in the Asia-Pacific, specifically with the comprehensive challenge of China, where America has a unique role and a unique need to play leadership.
Yeah, I mean, do you think that there was a change of heart on the part of the Chinese, or was this the plan all along? I mean, obviously they're looking at 100-year stretches and have the goal of getting back to the power of China and overtaking the United States as the #1 superpower. But was it Xi Jinping who came in and became much more nationalistic, like Mao Zedong? Or do you think it was something else?
Well, the People's Republic of China is not 100 years old, so I don't give them any 100-year credit yet for anything. And half of that 100 years they spent destroying themselves. And we came in and flooded them with investment and access and technology, and in some ways breathed life into this competitor and now adversary that we face. And so I think that Xi Jinping definitely has been a different leader, at least in style, if not substance, from his predecessors. Some of that was led by the failure of leadership in the United States.
Yeah,
and he's seeking that opportunity now against us.
Yeah, great point. Steve, good to see you. Thank you.
My pleasure.
All
Thank
right,
you.
Steve.